Welcome to my current living room.
Thank you. There's
Martin.
quite a lot of people in here.
Yes, there is. And there are challenging questions waiting for you, but don't worry, I'll be friendly. Tell us a little bit about your solution.
Good. So Dusan already took the Tatra Banka. Luckily, our cooperation with Innovatrics, of course, is quite extensive. So there's many more cases to talk about. Looking forward to BioCon 2023 already. I would like to share one of our other experiences for a major Slovak bank. What we do typically in partnership with Innovatrics, taking the already discussed DOT, taking document OCR, and establishing the web onboarding for banks, for which the market's already quite saturated, I would say. Quite advanced in many financial institutions are utilizing the solution. We are also thinking about how to extend this, how to make use of it for some, as my previous colleague was talking, for some natively digital processes and experiences, let's say, and how to move this into the contracting, so to speak, because together with Innovatrics and other technological companies within the market, we've done a really good job in Slovakia on bringing customers into the company, into the bank, into the insurance company digitally, but we can leverage on it and build some more experiences around it. One of the experiences we are thinking about is contracting, because as Dusan mentioned, physical signature is quite challenging, and just digitizing in scanning the documents into PDFs and signing them via some representation might not be enough. So these are the kind of topics that we like to look into, and I would like to share one particular study which began in something I would call digital void for now. The bank was not COVID ready, as many of the companies weren't. There was some daily banking present in online, both the app and in internet, through a browser. There were very few sales processes, but of course the biggest problem or biggest limitation was that the bank was not able to onboard the customers. So we went through a typical, let's say, onboarding implementation. You already saw some of the steps today, so I'll be brief and highlight only those that I consider some valuable. You're a CX and UX professional, so from this standpoint, what was important, I think, is clearly presenting the process to the customer, making him aware of where he is in the process, how many steps are left, whether he needs to reserve next half day or he'll be done in a minute. So telling the process to the customer is important.
Setting the expectations.
Setting the expectations, yes, exactly. Then we've leveraged on the powerful, let's say, auto capture for the documents, and again, with a friendly customer experience, it's important to guide the customer through scanning the document, telling him if he's doing something wrong, if there's, I don't know, not enough light, or it's too blurry, so maybe he needs to move the camera, the phone a little bit, and so on. One of the other major steps, or typically important steps, was to clearly represent to the customer what is being captured, which data are being extracted, and some of the data might need to be edited, or some of them the bank chooses not to allow him to edit, to really verify and to take only the data present on the ID. But it is a good experience also for the customer to let him edit if he sees if he's living on some crazy street. There's quite a rampant development going on, as you can see in Bratislava. So in the real world, there are mistakes for sometimes. So this was something that was also important from our perspective. A lot was said about the passive liveness check, which I'm really looking forward to seeing the demo for the 2.0 version. It is something that really improves the experience from a customer perspective. some banks and some of our clients are also quite let's say, strict on how we verify the customer and require a high, let's say, confidence score. So the good thing with this is you can always fall back. If the passive liveness check, for some reasons, some of us might have a rough night, as you said, or the lightning's inadequate, you can always fall back to the active liveness check following the dot. So this is something that we've done. Passive liveness check is a primary customer-friendly option, but you can always fall back if the customer or the confidence score is unsatisfactory. And that's it, basically. So these are a few short, let's say, steps, also including all the requirements from a know your customer and AML perspective. They can be, I would say, the market is quite evolving on this. The amount of questions is being brought down. As you might know, in the bank, it's a challenge to discuss these topics with compliance and risk officers. So the market's evolving, number of questions coming down, and technologies for the onboarding are there. So I would say this was one of the more, let's say, streamlined implementations, and something that is a bit easier from this kind of number of compliance questions, security questions, biometric questions even. The market's well educated, I would say, and aware of the solution.
I've heard that Europe decided that if we're not going to be the #1 in innovations, we're definitely going to be #1 in regulations. And that's seen in the GDPR and a lot of the things that you're talking about. So sometimes it's a challenge to make these things UX friendly when there is a regulator pushing at you. But you're saying it's getting better, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, I would say we've moved past the first biggest hill of convincing, together we've moved past the first biggest hill. Convincing everyone that biometry is really there, it's strong, it's secure, it's something you can trust on and you can build on. And you need to build, as was already said today, you need to evolve the solution and advance also the interactions, but also there's new legislative coming in. I was talking about the signatures a bit. IDAS 2 is already looming on the horizon, let's say. So there will be a new set of challenges there, definitely.
Sure.
Okay, so what I would like to point out, don't be scared. We're not going to go into details and try to decipher everything, but I will try to point out a couple of things that I think are in sync of what was already said on this conference, and something that really proved the value to the client and was interesting. First part was deploying the solution into the cloud. As you might have mentioned at the beginning, we have a solution called Infinity that's being powered by Innovatrics engine. Of course, all the usual buzzwords are there. In this case, we were really ready to, day one, let's say, start the solution and start prototyping with the client. It might not have been the final set of screens, the final process, but we are ready to iterate the ideas better than in some bullet points over emails or so on. So that's something that's really strong for creating a good experience. This is something that the customers typically want to buy or outsource or get as a service. So having the operations in the cloud also is something that makes perfect sense. All of a sudden, you don't need to provide manuals and provide trainings for the operations personnel on the side of the bank and so on. Again, shortening the project, potentially even lowering the costs. You can scale. What we saw and what I can show you on the next slide, utilization of this solution highly relies on some campaigns or some marketing activities of the bank. So you can scale. If your typical usage is couple hundreds or maybe even couple tens of new customers every month, you get a good campaign, you provide some good product, you can go up to thousands or tens of thousands. Cloud enables this without using the buzzwords, even without you doing something or anything. So even keeping up with the versions, the cloud takes care of you being up to date on security patches, updates, and other software components. So you can build a cloud solution that will be lower on the need to maintain anything, to do the updates and so on. Second thing that I would like to mention, again, might look scary, but this is a pretty detailed view on an onboarding process for the part that's the actual onboarding. It's not a dashboard for banks clients, but it's a dashboard for our clients. So when you implement the solution, our experience typically is that the bank's testers and business users are really good at onboarding because they've done it tens or hundreds of times. You even have some customers that are early adopters and like to go through, and they go through because they are tech savvy, but the demographics are varied. So you need to have a data-driven view on how the customers did with the process, where did they fail, where's the follow-up, what are the potential complicated steps. Either you need to do something on the customer experience there, or you have some technical challenges. Maybe something is failing from a technical point of view. So one of the major takeaways from our many implementations was that you really need to collect the data, take a look on them, and improve, iterate after the first deployment. Okay, I was mentioning a digital void at the beginning. We've managed to, I believe we've managed together to fill it with not only buzzwords, as they might seem, but also some sometimes surprising content. The solution can be utilized for the branch. You have a digital, highly reduced or optimized, let's say, process from a customer perspective. You've done all the fights with compliance, and you can take those 3 AML questions instead of 10 questions to the branch, which makes the experience shorter and more pleasurable on the branch also. Another step which was very relevant in this case, the bank was going through a merger, and they used this solution to migrate their customers into the online banking. It's a kind of a self-migration or assisted migration where the solution takes you through it, but you don't have to schedule big migrations, multi-month activities with some dress rehearsals and so on. The customer, whenever he's ready to join the smart banking or internet banking, he goes to the solution, goes through the onboarding process, and he's migrated. So this was you were talking about earlier about some corner cases or edge cases. This is an edge case, which is a very good experience and saves a lot of activities and projects on the bank side.
And builds trust.
Builds trust, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the Slovak market, because you do have experience from several banks and also telco. Do you still feel like there is a pushback from the client? And when I say client, I don't mean B2B, right? I don't mean the big business, but I mean the actual user, the end user. Do you feel like there is still a little bit pushback against the biometric, or is the adoption rate going pretty well? Are people still scared to leave their, voice footprint somewhere or face footprint somewhere in the digital?
I would compare maybe to Czech Republic, where we as a company and I as a person have some experience. Slovakia is really far in this, and the acceptance, I would say, is quite higher. I'm always trying to be aware because most of the people probably in the room, most of us are tech savvy and make their own opinions.
It's a bubble.
Yeah. But we need to be aware of let's say, other demographics. There will always be some kind of, let's say, not a mistrust, but any sufficiently advanced technologies cannot be differentiated from magic. So
there's always suspicion.
There will always be some suspicion of it being magic. All we can do is provide working and let's say straightforward solutions and keep raising the bar.
Right, but you feel like the acceptance is pretty cool at this point in our geographic area, or what you've seen around the world, that works nicely. Okay. Good. This was banking. Tell me a little bit about telco. Are the adoption in telco also as fast as in banking? Is that something that, we've seen a case? Is that something where the industry is going soon? Is this something that we're going to see here as well?
Most of the operators in country actually have this kind of onboarding. Where we are lagging, I would say, is with the eSIM. Not because of the lack of technologies, but because of activities. And I fully support the opinion that eSIMs should get us there, and the experience, all the technical components are in place for us to make it a fully seamless digital process. So in Slovakia, telco was, I would say, lagging a bit behind banking, but getting there. And
Great.
hopefully getting there with eSIMs really soon.
A lot of the solutions that, or the solution that you talked about, and especially in banking, it's also connected to how far the country is as a nation, right? Do you have a data pool that you can kind of check the ID vis-a-vis some regulators or governmental? How's that situation currently in the markets here? Is that going well as well? Do you have the databases that you check against that is easy to work with? And
I would say it's wildly varied within the region. And again, the biggest contrast is Slovak Republic and Czech Republic, where if you put these two countries together, you would have all the perfect components for digital anything, digital sales in banking. But we typically have complementary tools and assets.
And
so Slovakia is really good in the identity or ID verification, that it's not stolen, not lost, it's an existing citizen, and so on and so on. We have many registries, especially for credit-related things, but we are lacking some of the sales tools, what to provide to the customer. In Czech, I would say it's the opposite. They have things like registries of the lots and their pricing. For mortgages, they have the bank ID, which is a big topic on the Czech market, but they have absolutely no way or no accepted way at the moment from a regulatory perspective how to get the clients into the banks. So they all still have to go to the branches, and then they can join the digital ecosystem. If you put these two things together, it would be a perfect solution, but right now we are only complementary.
Yeah, maybe we should reunite, but that's a different conference. Anyways, it was a pleasure talking to you, Martin. Thank you so much for the case. Thanks.